This is Boston Lanka News, bringing you news, views and entertainment from Boston and USA. I'm Vioni Dimel. All campaign activities in the Uva Provincial Council election ended midnight Wednesday. The election will be held on the 20th September. Altogether, 617 candidates representing 14 political parties and 11 independent groups will contest the election. 14 councillors will be elected for the Munaragala district, while 18 will be elected for the Badulla district. According to the election watchdog, Campaign for Free and Fair Elections, CAFFE, there were 24 instances of election law violations on the last day of campaigning, including complaints of misuse of public property and using public announcement systems without approval. Sri Lankan police has deployed nearly 11,000 policemen and another 1,000 officers of the Special Task Force in the Uva province. We now join with Mr. Keerthi Tennakoon, Executive Director of CAFFE, Campaign for Free and Fair Elections. Mr. Tennakoon, there is only 1 or 2 days to the Uva Provincial Council elections. In terms of violations of election laws and violence, do you see an increase or decrease?
I mean, this Uva provincial election is a very unique election as far as we are concerned, and it has a very great importance in the other hand, because this is the last election of a round of provincial elections, and for last 2 years we had 7 provincial elections, and this is the last, and they kept the last for the best, it seems. The election campaigning started a long time ago, 5 weeks ago, and with some very unpleasant situation what happened in Badulla district. The Deputy Election Commissioner was threatened as the start of the election campaigning, and Munaragala became a very, very hot spot, reporting more than 60 incidents of election violence during the run-up to the elections. But the good news is that for last 6 days, the election commissioner and the police department has done a bit of work down there, and now for last 6 days we didn't see election violence down there, but election law violations, more than 400 incidents were reported up to today. So that itself says that, I mean, this is the most disturbed elections during the last 2 years which we had as a round.
Police is facing serious criticism about not able to control incidents and to maintain law and order and to prevent election law violations. In your view, is it because police is inefficient or police have their hands tied?
I think the inaction of the police is the key word here. Senior police officers and the regional police staffers are not doing their duty well, and when it comes to the general law enforcement, it's taking down there, and they are very good at that. But here during the election, when it comes to the political matters and when it comes to the election matters, police keeps a blind eye on most of the incidents. For example, the unmarked vehicles and the vehicles with garage numbers, and there was so much of incidents we have seen that police is not taking any actions, and the police department, IGP has to send people, the police staffers from the other districts, other provinces for that matter, to establish new roadblocks and all that. But even with that, the exercise and that practice, of course, even today to some extent they were not able to control the whole thing.
And now there was a ruling from Chief Justice to distribute drought relief with certain conditions to Munaragala district, and we saw on media that election commission is saying that the government officials are ignoring CJ's ruling. Can you comment on that?
It's very unfortunate situation, and this some of the government officials directly involved with political campaigning for the UPFA, and the Secretary of the Ministry of Economic Development has under very serious criticism among the political activists, political parties, civil society, and all in all, and the program which they were designed to address the issue of drought and drought relief for that matter, was highly criticized by the all the stakeholders, as everyone knows that more than 9 districts was totally affected with the drought, and they are only providing relief to the district of Monaragala. They say that they have given some potatoes to the districts of Polonaru and Anuradhapura. According to the secretary, it worth only 24 million rupees, and in the same time they have allocated 200 million rupees only to Monragala districts, and the other districts was not given even a cent. In the same time, this was done during the election time, which is very clear that the whole this program was designed to address the political needs of the ruling party, and the people, election monitors, civil society, political parties, various stockholders went to complain to the election commissioner and in the same time to the human rights commission, saying that this is a violation. But it is very interesting, 5 farmers in a very organic way came to the courts, file a petition to the courts within maybe 4 hours, and their efficiency was very much on top. It's not, it's very unique for people who's living, farmers living in Vallavai for that matter. But the secretary of the Ministry of Economic Development appears on the on court, and he explained that he is getting, he said that he is guilty for that, not providing the relief to the Monoragal, and they went on providing the relief 2,500 rupees to the people who's registered on the voters registry, not on the other factors, but they consider the family units which was registered for 2013 voters registry, and that relief was given rupees 2,500. But the actions, the mechanism to get involved with the Samurdhi officials and the Divinaguma economic development officials and the agrarian assistants is highly criticized, and we saw in some cases, especially in Monaragala electorate, the candidates and their supporters came to these places where this relief was distributed and tried to have their election campaigning done down there, and various politicians make speeches that it is the ruling party who did the whole thing, which is totally violation of election laws. But in general, basically everyone sees this as a gimmick done for the elections, to promote the candidates, to promote the ruling party for that matter. It's a very unpleasant situation, and I think when considering the whole situation in Sri Lanka, it's a very unfair judgment and it's a very unfair act, because none of the other districts were given drought relief at the moment, and there are more and more people really affected with the drought than Monaragala.
Mr. Tennakoon, your organization wants the district secretary of Monaragala to remove himself from the position of the district returning officer for the coming OA elections. Can you explain why?
I mean, the way he conducted, I mean, this particular Mr. Padmanabhan is a very reputed, very respected civil servant, and there's no other way when the government mechanism put so much of pressure on him to distribute this drought relief before the elections, and he has taken some measures, of course, but when he was, his mechanism of implementation of the project is under very big question mark, because he directly got instructions from the secretary of the Ministry of Economic Development for that matter to and ask, and he did, of course, with some of the officials and the economic development officials who were doing election campaigning as a trade union only 5 days before that. And I mean, these officials were distributing leaflets, wearing blue t-shirts, of course, and next day they are coming with a packet of money and distributing that packet of money to the people. Is everyone very clearly see, it's a very big sign that these people who has campaigned for the UPFA is also distributing the money 3 days after that. So with that function, we ask, I mean, there are provisions on these sort of situations that district secretary can step down and he can appoint a deputy for that, and we ask that use that provision to ensure that the credibility of the elections is stick down there in Monaragala district. And actually even today they try to distribute money, and the election commissioner once again became very tough on this, and he said that he is calling off the elections, or otherwise with his powers he will appoint another district returning officer if he is going to distribute money today, today or tomorrow. And with that remarks, the district secretariat stopped the distribution of money, which is a very good indication, and I think that is the thing has to be done, of course, for that matter. But the credibility with the elections and the intentions of the ruling party or the government for that matter, and it's very clear visible, this is a election gimmick what they have done with as food relief or the drought relief, whatever they call it.
I know you were with the election commissioner even this morning attending a meeting. Um, Election commissioner came into severe criticism, saying that he is not using his position to conduct free and fair elections. Is that a fair criticism?
Yes, I mean, even we have criticized the election commissioner once in a while, and there are reasons to do that. But here, I mean, the real the reason behind the election commissioner's issues are that he was more powerless than the previous election commissioners. And with the 18th amendment, all his powers were cut down, and with that thing, whatever the directives he is given to the police for that matter or the public servants is not basically carried out on the field, which to blaming the election commissioner for that is not reasonable, I'll say. And with his powers, he has done so much to implement the election law, to see the credibility of the election law is implemented on ground, and it's quite remarkable, I'll say. But here we should understand the situation in Sri Lanka. The system in Sri Lanka at now present situation is that with the 18th amendment, all his powers were shaken, and he was the least powerful man when comparing to the previous election commissioners.
Mr. Tennakoon, especially for those Sri Lankans living outside Sri Lanka, can you explain the work and the role of your organization during elections?
CAFFE was established in 2008, and when these Eastern provincial elections were taken place, and everyone knows that the first Eastern Provincial Council election is a bloodshed. Of course, there was so much of violence taken place. There's so much of valuable lives are taken by, and with that thing, we thought of putting some pressure on the election law violations and election violence for that matter during the election time, and we were focusing on the issues as it happens, and we try to name and shame some people, of course, when these violations were taking place. And in the same time, we try to get information whatever the incidents taking place and put them into the election commissioner, police, or we are lobbying various stakeholders, we are dealing with media. And we just not just the observers for that matter, we try to put some pressure on these stakeholders, and we are looking for the results. we are looking for the results as it happens, and before the elections we have sorted out so many issues, especially the voting rights of the people, the transportation, abuse of a state property, and the marginalized people's issues. Because I mean, for example, we has provided more than 6,000 identification documents during the last 3 weeks to the people who don't have the identification documents, which is mandatory to vote on election day. For last 3 years, we have provided more than 220,000 identification documents for the people, and we are keeping lobby on various issues like amendments to the election laws, law reforms on elections, and human rights. We do a lot. So all in all, we are talking about the electoral integrity in Sri Lanka.
My last question to you, Mr. Tennakoon. Now, there is only 1 or 2 days for elections as we speak. And what would you expect in next day or two? And also, do you have any message for the voters in Uva to make this election fair and free election?
Uh, as I told you, I mean earlier, there were more than 420 incidents reported, and that itself states this election had so much of problems itself, and more than 78 incidents of election violence incidents, which is the highest when comparing to the last provincial elections. But for last 6 days, we have seen that. This particular trend has reduced to some extent. There was no major election violence taken place down there for last 6 days, which is very good sign, and we are very hopeful that we can keep that particular environment for next 2-3 days. And we are very much hopeful that the law enforcement is taking place down there to some extent now. The additional police power was delivered to the Monoragala district, and there's additional manpower has transported to that area, and the STF has deployed in some areas, and additional roadblocks has been established, and the election commission has sent more than 350 people from Colombo, very reputed civil servants and government servants, to address these issues as it happens. And in the same time, election monitors are doing a very big role in this election, we have to admit, and they are coming up with all the reports as it happens. So we are capable of putting some pressure and highlighting the issues to the various stakeholders. So we are really hopeful that there will be fair elections, at least on the election day. But in the same time, our message to the voters: go and vote in this very important election, because everyone believe in Sri Lanka that within no time there will be a presidential election, maybe early next year. So it is very important that you exercise your voting rights, and in the same time, that will lead the way to credible elections in Sri Lanka and the transparent elections in Sri Lanka.
That concludes our news edition. We meet you again with another news edition of News, Views and Entertainment from Boston and USA. Till then, goodbye.